Hello, I'm Dirk Ducharme, Quality Digest Editor-in-Chief. Last month, Quality Digest CEO Jeff Doerr and I attended ASQ's World Conference on Quality and Improvement in Anaheim, California. We conducted several interviews with their two CEOs and both boards of directors. We think you're going to find these interviews pretty enlightening. We'd like to thank ASQ for making everyone available for our questions, and we hope these interviews will provide insight and support to our readers as they navigate the future, especially as it applies to their own careers.
There you go. Ann Jordan, Jim Templin, thank you. What is the relationship between ASQ and ASQE?
So
Ann,
Jim,
let's start with you.
I will start. Thank you. And thank you for having me. By the way, this is a pleasure to be able to speak with you. So the relationship between ASQ and ASQE, the first thing I'll say is that is interconnected. And so as quality professionals, we're really familiar with the concept of a system. That is the best way to think about the two organizations. Now, they are separate, and that's why you have two CEOs. So technically, we have two distinct entities. But what's very unique about it is that we have taken the value components of both ASQ and ASQE and understood how they can come together to create mutual beneficial value for organizations and individuals. To get to this system approach, the ASQ Board of Directors back in 2019 really did an overall risk management assessment and created a very kind of robust ERM specific for associations. And that objectivity and measurement of where we saw value needed to be adding was the foundation for creating them. And so at its heart, the ASQ-ASQ relationship is that individual and organizational system.
And you said they both bring their own value. So, and I'll ask this of you, Ann. And first is, so what is the value that ASQ brings, and then what will be the value that ASQE brings? So, Ann, first.
So when we talk about value, I'll do it from two different perspectives. One, the value that ASQ will bring under this new model to the membership and to our customers, which really is critical, but then also the value proposition that feeds over to ASQE and its organizational members, if that's okay. So when you think about the greater benefit that it brings to the ASQ members and to our customer base, for the first time, there's a mechanism that's run through ASQE that provides year-over-year benchmarking data for industry. And that isn't just unique with respect to a certain geography. It's not specific to a certain practice of quality. It's robust and based upon the Baldrige framework. I'm going to let Jim talk about that later, since it's his baby. But this data that's available then comes over and can really be provided to our communities for thought leadership opportunity, as well as serve as a foundation for education development. So for the first time, we can say, if you're a member of ASQ and you're reviewing this type of data, it's readily applicable to what you're doing at your job or where you want to go. When you're looking at upskilling, it shows you where you as a professional need to grow to be able to contribute more and advance in your career. So that underlying foundation is very, very new. So that's point one, I'll say, from member value for ASQ. The other is that we looked at our education delivery system. And in the past, it was very traditional that trainer, consultant, goes to a location and gives that PowerPoint slides, kind of the old way. We now have a multi-delivery education system called ASQ Connects that also takes account of modern technology, right? How do we have direct license that go into LMS systems? How do we create a mechanism that can partner with higher education, but then also respects that foundation of we have a whole network of highly qualified trainers. So now we have a process to vet them, give them the rights to a license with our brand to deliver standardized ASQ content, and then we get out of the way. Because as a society, I am not the subject matter expert. We at Headquarters are not. Our trainers and members are. So let's build something through ASQ Connects that allows organizations and consultant trainers to come together to figure out their relationships.
And work from the same framework, the same body of knowledge, and basically speak the same language.
Yes.
Jim, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and ASQE is here as a trade association, as a 501c6 to elevate the field of quality, and we talk about it on helping the world on their excellence journey. So the Insights on Excellence is our primary value that we're offering to the world, not only individual members or organizational members, but that's my mission, is to deliver the state of the industry to the world. So it really does drive the support of what we're doing to improve the world.
And by helping to elevate, let's say, the quality industry as an organization, you are, in essence, then also elevating ASQ members, who are the individuals.
And the second part of the question that you asked, I said there was the benefit that ASQ provides to ASQE. Because ASQE focuses on organizations, then what they don't necessarily have is the thought leaders, right?
Correct.
Because those are two different buckets. They're in ASQ. And so what ASQ then benefits to ASQE is they make sense of this data and these trends. And our thought leaders say, hey, based upon this is where we're seeing things are going to go, or this is how we can help you. And so what's very unique about this model that you probably don't see in a lot of association is that mutual beneficial relationship, because we applied quality tools. We applied a system to the way that we operate.
So an example of this, when you guys did the Ask the CEOs, there was a comment that what we realized from some of the data that we've been collecting is there's a big need for soft skills.
Correct.
And then that translates, interpreted through the thought leaders that you were referring to as, all right, that's going to end up in training, in certifications, skill sets,
Events, content.
yeah.
It's a beautiful model because it's going to sustain itself. As the world evolves and changes, we're going to be on top of that and be able to identify what's the next trend, what's the next concern, what's the next gap, and ASQ and their education delivery can deliver on the solution.
What is the grand vision? I mean, where is, you guys must have, this is where we want to end up. What is that?
I just want to continue. We talked about where's the future of the quality professional. I want to be able to continue to deliver something that's going to get them a seat at the table, to be able to have them help influence the future direction of their organization, or even personally, in their city, their community. Here are the tools that you can help the world be a better place.
When we think of a trade organization, or at least myself, when I think of a trade organization, I also think of trade lobby. So does the ASQE see itself, other than just working at this kind of, let's say, the grassroots level, working with the organizations and their members, do you see in some way impacting decision makers, lawmakers, in terms of what happens for industry in general with an eye towards quality?
While we could do that, I don't see the vision for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one comment that I'll have, and it doesn't go into lobbying, we talk about what is the impact quality can have on governments. I also think it's critical to think about the role ASQ plays in ISO standards, because that ultimately goes beyond one government into the world. One of the other areas that we're looking to capitalize on right now is the fact that we administer, quite frankly, the two most popular and critical standards in the world, ISO 9001 and 14001. There's so much work, for example, going on in ESG right now. How can quality, the profession, tell the world that advancing some of your skills in this area, whether it be in social responsibility or environmental management or governance, can be done through quality tools, starting with standards. And so even though it is not through lobbying, when we look at how we can impact those greater bodies, I think we need to be mindful of some of that, but we haven't done a good job talking about it. And so one of the other things I hope we can do in partnership with ASQE is making organizations aware of this, making sure my thought leaders that are in these groups, their voice is heard and there's a platform to have those discussions.
Very much from the influencer perspective, if not a direct lobbyist.
Correct.
Yeah.
ESG, environmental, social government, social responsibility and corporate governance, has been coming up a lot in our previous interviews as well. So working from the top down, let's say from the ASQE, what are you hearing about ESG from your surveys and from your members, and how does that impact the individual members?
Well, that's perfect timing, because I talked about the 8 criteria that's within the IOE framework, and now this year we're doing research to identify what would be the next criteria that would encompass the ESG.
Okay.
So we will have data And it's being influenced by thought leaders within ASQ and around the world who are going to help us inform what are those criteria, what are those questions, what is the benchmarking that we're looking for. So again, we will have something data, fact-based, to deliver to the world that says, here's where things are headed.
And what is ES&G, what does ASQ deliver in terms of ES&G, or could it? I mean, training, or is it just knowledge?
I love that question. I mean, like Jim was like, don't ask her that. This is going to go.
Okay,
So
I'm done.
Okay, gotta go.
So here, okay. That topic personally is important to me, but it's also very important to so many of our members. I've had an opportunity, even at this conference, to go around and think about the future and what quality with ES&G means. The first thing that I will state is when you look at ES&G and the different components of it, quality is the measurement or the path by which any organization needs to follow to get to its own individual goals. Now, ES&G started out in the financial sector, which was very limited with respect to the application and probably very profit-driven. Yep. But when you apply standardized quality practices, things like measurement, like auditing, all those things that are really core to our profession, you suddenly have tools. With respect to how ASQ can contribute, and I'll break down the three different groups. The first with the E, environmental management systems through 14,001 in our tag, that really is the key to reaching those goals. And some of the discussions that are going on at the global ISO level is how standards can be brought together through ISO to create a master framework in that area. I cannot wait for ASQ to be a player in that with some of our amazing subject matter experts in that group. With respect to social responsibility, we have a full technical community that is committed to that. They had a great booth at the ASQ Center. Hopefully people were able to talk to them that are looking at those issues and how do they promote it. And so then also with respect to governance, again, our technical communities deal with these issues every single day, and we have several of them that overlap. But what is critical is when you look at ES&G, it is essentially organizational excellence. To me, it's an extension with a different name. And so how do you promote that? You promote it with a management system, a robust management system that is supported by quality professionals.
And there is an ES&G ISO standard in the works, right?
So what I understand is going on, and again, we have a whole group of experts that could answer this better, is that there's an exploratory group that's looking at what all ISO standards currently in existence fulfill these needs, so we can bring together almost a blueprint of these are all the tools available for you. You have 26,000 on social responsibility that also is into play. You have all of those frameworks, but they haven't been brought together. Right, and I'll say the same thing too with ASQ. We have all these experts in those three different areas. Let's bring them together. And oh, by the way, we're now going to get data and collaboration with ASQE organizations to look at this and figure out what would a framework be like. So I'm thrilled to see what our members are going to be able to do to this space. And then I feel it's our responsibility as an organization to tell the world, when you hear ES&G, you better think quality, because it's essential if you're going to reach your goals that you have.
And that message hasn't been out there, but when you talk about how this will help our members, I can't wait to be able to offer them the insights that this work is going to be done to help them.
And that leads into a question that, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask it in a rhetorical way. It seems like the ASQE in this connected journey is only expected to affect membership in a positive direction, affect certifications in a positive direction, because it provides the framework and the tools and the information and the data that will simply be more valuable and more relevant to those who are seeking that kind of information and training.
I hope so. I will say the one thing about a system is that when you create that system, you look at what doesn't fit in the system. And so with the ASQ Board of Directors, they'll likely always be that as we continue to innovate within the system. Now, because we're doing all of these new things, what is it that might no longer fit within the realm that used to? That's part of innovation, though. I also think because of the system approach, it allows us to constantly evaluate those components to see how they can be improved upon. And it is unique because they're two entities, so we also always have to work together.
Exactly. It's very unique.
It's very unique. We also, though, have overlap on the board. so that we make sure that there's that strategic element where there's alignment so we don't get too far astray from one another.
Have there been any particular challenges in?
None.
It was a piece of cake.
It was, yeah.
My organization started in January of 2020, and by March, we were shut down.
Well, that was a challenge.
That is a fun way to start a brand new organization.
That was a challenge. I'm thinking, excuse me, more organizationally, or maybe even membership. Was there some?
Yes.
Was there any kind of pushback, or like, what the heck are you guys doing? I mean, what were the challenges?
The biggest challenge, I think, with respect to ASQ was communication. Because all of these decisions originally are made with the board of directors out of strategy. And I think I alluded to at the fact that underlying that was enterprise risk management. So a lot of that is done with a group that is very strategic. And because the magnitude of this change was so great and our base of members is very diverse and around the world, how do you keep getting that message out of this is why we're doing it, this is the value proposition? Because you always then open yourself up to people that will distort the truth. And it's hard to control with social media and some of those other things. And so it would be that constant cascade of communication and making sure that you had alignment with your top leadership starting at the board of directors. That probably is the hardest part of any change, that change management element. And in our situation, a part of it is letting them see the value, as it's coming to them for the first time. But then also that's on me to get out on the road. So one of the maybe benefits you can say of the pandemic, because everybody went virtual, is that it's much easier to do virtual presentations to get out there to some of those groups than in person. I think I did 42 of them.
The road shows.
Yeah. I did, I think 42 in the first year to get out there to really say, hey, this is our value proposition we're excited about. And I can guarantee you that when I walked in, a lot of them were pretty skeptical, and I got a lot of hard questions. But having that dialogue, by the end of the day, there was a source of excitement, and that is really what is so meaningful to me. When they start to see it, hey, this is something new, this is something of additional value, and it's going to be fun.
I think it's called the ASQ, and the A being American, but it is a worldwide organization. Is it perceived differently, and I'm talking about the ASQE and the ASQ, is it perceived differently in different countries, this whole separation and what's going on? Is it perceived differently in other countries than it is maybe in the U.S.?
I don't see that, but
Okay.
I have organizational members worldwide, and they love the benchmarking opportunities. They also love the opportunity to have their employees and staff network with Ann's SMEs, their technical communities. So to me, it's a perfect model, and we're now delivering products globally through the pandemic that we wouldn't have been able to do in the past.
And this,
You're looking excited.
well, there's so much opportunity. I mean, the multinational element obviously is there to have that consistency. The other thing that's fun is the benchmarking tool that ASQE has. I said it can be broken down by geographic regions. So for the first time, the ASQ subject matter experts in different countries around the world, they have an opportunity to debate, why is the data different in my region of the world than in the United States? That's a perfect example. Last fall, we actually had two experts, Paulo Sampaio and Jamie Kovac, went head-to-head in an event on why European data was different than United States information and digital transformation.
That'd be fun.
And why are some industries ahead and some are behind. So it actually allows us to collaborate globally in an easier fashion than we did in the past.
Was there any resolution about that, or was it more just clarifying the question?
In terms of the two regions of the world?
Yeah.
Oh, it was more really throwing it out there to say, what's going on? We're not here to even give them answers. Neither Jamie or Paulo could give solutions, but they were able to draw out the differences in the regions and speculate on what's going on. We have a webinar next week. We're providing the Insights and Excellent data to Europe, again, the European Organization of Quality. Paulo is doing a webinar on the year-over-year changes. He did it last year for us last March, and he's doing it again next week to say, here's what we've learned in 2021. I love that. I love that we're helping the 26 organizations or 27 that are part of EOQ.
So you're just at that stage now where you're just increasingly unveiling what the issues are. And
so maybe there was concerns originally because people didn't know what was going to happen, but now we're delivering.
Right.
It's not just talk.
Let me throw a question to both of you. Anne, you're fairly new to the organization, so maybe you know this, maybe you don't. For a long time, there was a lot of, I don't know, grumbling, disappointment, so on and so forth with the ASQ. And now it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from you guys, it sounds like it's been re-energized, that people are excited. Has that been a change that you've seen? Are you hearing like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you guys are doing this. I've been waiting for this to happen for 20 years or whatever.
Don't you see us walking around here smiling all day? We wouldn't be out there if we were afraid to hear that. No, we love it.
Jim, how long have you been?
5 years.
5 years, okay.
Yeah.
So you're both fairly new. So.
Yeah, I started with ASQ as a membership manager.
Okay.
Yeah. So timing, I think, is critical with all this, because if you think about the unveiling of the new strategy overlapped with the pandemic, when everyone's life was completely disrupted to begin with. Yeah. And so, again, I do think that might have been a benefit, because the norm suddenly was blown up in our everyday lives.
Right.
And so as we were presenting this new change as a society, I think there maybe was more of that appetite to consider change. Sure. Because everything was changing around them. When you talk about, is the membership energized, I think that if you're looking for new value, yes. Some people like the way things have been in the past, right? Yeah. But what also ASQ has to be very mindful of is the changing demographic of our own membership, and how some cultural changes, for example, with next generation, what they are wanting out of a society. And so that element of, are you hearing all positive and nothing negative? You're never going to hear all positive. But those that are looking for that enhanced value proposition, absolutely, we're receiving a lot of positive feedback. Is it done, and is the model perfect? No. We constantly want to hear those voices of how it can improve, and from both individuals and organizations, because they have to connect. But the short answer is, I do believe there's a lot of energy going through the society. I also think it's our job to tell the world why quality is so critical, and as we're able to rise up the principles, the practices, the profession of quality, that should enhance, the value that members perceive of ASQ. So we're just starting. This model is a year old. And as we're able to build and collaborate, it's just going to get better and better.
And Ann and I both believe in transparency. You will see that we share our strategic plans, which are very aligned with anyone that wants to see them, staff members. Of course, we want the world to understand what we're doing strategically. I don't think that was, to your point about communication, I don't think people could articulate what the strategic plan for ASQ was 5 or 10 years ago. Yeah. But it's very clear for us right now. I love that in my 40-year career, I've never felt clarity as I do today on where we're going. That's why it's so fun.
All right.
So, Ann Jordan, Jim Templin, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.